All right, let's dive in. Norse mythology. We got a ton of great stuff on this, and I'm pumped to explore it with you.
It's really a fascinating area, Norse mythology. I mean, it's way more than just stories,
Yeah.
right? It's like a window into how the Vikings saw the world,
Yeah.
shaped by their environment and how they lived.
That's what's so cool about mythology in general, right?
Uh,
It's not just about the gods and monsters.
right.
It's about how people in different times and places,
Yeah.
made sense of everything around them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with Norse mythology, we're talking about a culture that was like totally connected to nature.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they faced brutal conditions,
Yeah.
constant warfare.
Right.
And these experiences, it all comes out in their myths.
Totally.
They're just packed with powerful gods, epic battles, and,
Yeah.
and this constant awareness of, fate and destiny.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the big players in this whole cosmic drama.
Okay.
We've got the Esser, right? The main group of gods hanging out in Asgard, which is one of the 9 realms, all connected by, get this, the world tree Yggdrasil.
Yeah.
And like at the top of the Aesir, you got Odin, the Allfather.
Odin is such a complex figure.
Yeah,
So fascinating.
I know.
He's the god of war, wisdom, magic,
Mhm.
and he's constantly searching for knowledge,
Mhm.
even sacrificed one of his eyes, for a sip from the well of wisdom.
Wow. Talk about dedication. But it's not just his own brain he's using, right? He's got these 2 ravens,
Yes.
Hugin and Munin, and they're like his personal spies.
Yeah, his eyes and ears.
Yeah, bringing him info from all over those 9 realms. It's like an ancient surveillance system,
Totally. It really speaks to how the Norse understood that even the most powerful beings, have limits.
Yeah.
Odin, as wise as he is, he still needs tools and allies to get all that knowledge.
All right.
And that theme, right? That reliance on tools and how everything's connected.
Yeah.
It's huge in Norse mythology.
Makes sense, yeah. And then there's Thor, god of thunder. He's probably the most famous thanks to the movies and comic books.
Oh, yeah.
What makes him so compelling besides the hammer,
Yeah.
obviously?
Well, Thor really represents that Viking warrior spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Strong, brave, and fiercely loyal to his family and his people.
Right.
His hammer, Mjolnir, isn't just a weapon. It's like a symbol.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Mhm.
power, And his role is protector of Asgard and Midgard, which is where the humans are.
Yeah, and it's wild how these myths have stuck with us, right? Like,
Yeah.
we literally have Thor to thank for Thursday.
Really?
Yeah. It comes from Thor's Day.
Interesting.
Makes you think. How much other ancient stuff is hidden around us?
Yeah. It really shows you how powerful these stories are.
Yeah, they've been around for centuries, shaping language, culture,
Absolutely.
our whole understanding of the cosmos even.
Yeah.
But alongside these big guys, we've also got the trickster, Loki.
Yeah.
Now, he's often seen as a bad guy, but it feels like there's more to him than that, right?
Absolutely. What makes him different from the other Aesir gods? Well, Loki's actually a giant, by birth.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, adopted by Odin, which creates some really interesting tension, in that Aesir family dynamic.
Oh, yeah.
He's known for his cunning, right? Shape-shifting and just loving to stir up trouble.
Yeah.
But his actions aren't always purely bad.
So he's not like some evil mastermind who wants to destroy everything?
No, not exactly. Loki's often driven by this desire to be noticed,
Yeah.
to prove himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's a catalyst, for change.
Okay.
He challenges the rules and forces the gods to see their own weaknesses.
Oh, I see.
And in a way, his role, it's actually crucial to the balance of the cosmos.
So he's like necessary chaos.
Exactly.
You need that to shake things up and push things forward.
Precisely. And that back and forth between order and chaos.
Yeah.
That's a big theme in Norse mythology.
Makes sense.
And it all leads up to the ultimate showdown, Ragnarok.
Ragnarok, right. The twilight of the gods, the huge battle that ends the world.
Yeah.
It's kind of a dark concept, but there's also this feeling that it just has to happen. It's like baked into how they see the world.
Yeah, because fate, or weird, as they called it, is central to Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
The gods, they're powerful, but they're not above destiny.
Right.
They know Ragnarok is coming, and everything they do is influenced by that.
So it's like this giant shadow hanging over everything, changing how they act and how they relate to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you wonder how they could ever be happy or peaceful, if everything is doomed.
The great question, yeah.
Yeah, it really speaks to the resilience of people, right? Even when things seem impossible.
It really does.
But before we get too deep into what leads to Ragnarok, I think we need to understand how the Norse saw the cosmos, right?
Yeah.
This whole 9 realms connected by the world tree Yggdrasil.
Right.
It's pretty different from the heaven and hell idea you see in other mythologies.
Yeah, Yggdrasil is a powerful symbol. It covers the entire Norse cosmos.
Okay.
It's not just a tree. It's like this cosmic axis,
Right.
this living thing connecting all these different realms.
Yeah.
Asgard, where the Aesir gods are.
Mm-hmm.
Midgard, that's us humans.
Right.
And even Niflheim, which is like this shadowy place of ice and mist.
Yeah, so it's like a giant cosmic map.
Yeah,
Each realm is a different part of existence.
exactly.
And this idea of a flat Earth inside the world tree, that's pretty unique too, right?
Yeah.
Very different from how we see it today, like a sphere.
It really shows the importance of perspective.
Yeah.
The Norse people, they were surrounded by forests and mountains, so their cosmos reflects that, right?
Right. And it's not just the realms themselves, it's how they're connected.
Right.
Like the Rainbow Bridge, Bifrost,
Yeah.
guarded by Heimdall, always watching out for trouble, especially from those pesky giants.
Exactly. Bifrost reminds us that these realms, they're separate, but they're all linked. What happens in one can affect the others.
Yeah.
And the gods are always on guard, protecting that cosmic balance.
So it's like an ecosystem.
Yes.
Everything has its place,
Yeah.
but that balance is always being tested, especially by the giants.
That's right.
They seem to be a constant source of conflict.
They represent those primal forces, chaos, destruction, always pushing against the order that the gods made.
Right.
They're like that wild, untamed part of nature that the Vikings both respected and feared.
And it's interesting how they're not just pure evil, right?
Yeah.
They're a part of how the cosmos works. They challenge the gods.
Exactly. And that tension between the gods and the giants.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to lead us right into Ragnarok, the last battle that'll change everything.
Okay, so we've got these realms, powerful gods, and threats everywhere.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're ready for some serious drama.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we go from here? Feels like we've just started and we're already at the end of the world.
Yeah.
But before we get to Ragnarok, I'm curious about how it all began,
Okay.
their creation myth.
Right.
What did they believe about how the world came to be?
Well, their creation story is pretty different.
Okay.
It all starts with this huge emptiness called Gap,
Okay.
where you have like the realms of fire and ice colliding.
Whoa.
And from that clash,
Yeah.
a first being pops up, a giant named Ymir.
Well, so instead of a god creating everything, the Norse start with a giant.
Exactly.
This being that's like all chaos and potential.
Yeah, and get this, from Ymir's sweat, other giants are born.
Wow. Okay.
And there's this cow, Adumela. She feeds them with her milk.
A cow.
Yeah. And Adumela licks this salty ice block.
Okay.
And from that, the first god, Buri, appears.
That's so strange. It's like accidental creation,
Right. No big plan, just forces interacting.
Yeah.
And that leads to more life.
It's very organic.
And then it gets even crazier because Buri's descendants, including Odin and his brothers, they end up killing Ymir.
Whoa. Right. And they use his body to make the world.
Exactly.
Flesh becomes earth, blood the oceans,
Yep.
bones mountains, skull the sky.
Powerful imagery, right?
It's intense.
Shows how the world is built on sacrifice. Even in death, there's potential for new life.
Right. And it sets up that conflict between gods and giants.
Because they come from the same source.
Yeah. So from the start, that tension is built in.
Yeah, and this balance is always tested.
Especially with prophecies like Ragnarok hanging around.
Prophecies are a huge deal in Norse mythology.
Yeah.
They represent fate, word,
Okay.
and even the gods can't escape it.
But if they know it's coming, why not try to change it? Avoid Ragnarok altogether.
Well, that's where free will versus fate comes in.
Right.
The gods know their destiny, but they can still make choices along the way.
Okay.
They might influence events, but the end is fixed.
So they're playing a game where they know the ending,
Yeah.
but they still have to make moves.
And that awareness of fate affects everything.
Even stuff like Baldur's death.
Yes. Baldur's death is a turning point in Norse mythology.
For sure.
He's the god of light, everyone loves him.
Right.
And his death, it just throws Asgard into chaos.
Yeah. And it kicks off events leading to Ragnarok.
It all goes back to Loki's trickery.
But there's also fate involved, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Baldur's mother, Frigg,
Yeah.
tried to protect him. She got oaths from everything in creation not to hurt him.
Right.
But she missed one tiny thing, mistletoe.
Whoa.
And that's what does him in the night.
It's like that one small detail
Yeah.
that nobody noticed
Changes everything.
and leads to tragedy.
Yeah, it shows how everything's connected.
Yeah.
That even the best plans can go wrong.
And it shows how complex Loki is because he's often the bad guy.
Yeah. but his motives are never simple.
What was he thinking with Balder? Just pure evil?
Some see it as a needed disruption,
Oh,
challenging that rigid order of Asgard.
I see.
His tricks, they show the gods are vulnerable too,
Right.
make them face their own limits.
So he's a force for change.
Yeah, even if it's painful.
But change always comes with a price.
And his actions have consequences.
For Balder, the Aesir, and Loki himself.
It's a brutal punishment.
Yeah, bound with his son's entrails,
Yeah.
venom dripping on his face.
It's intense.
It's rough, even for Norse mythology.
It's divine payback.
Yeah, actions have consequences.
Even for a god.
But it also sets up his revenge.
Right, he's prophesied to break free during Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Lead the forces of chaos against the Aesir.
So we have all this tension building, that sense of doom,
Yeah.
and then boom, Ragnarok.
Yeah.
What goes down in that final battle?
It's more than just gods versus giants.
Okay.
Ragnarok is the ultimate unraveling.
Right.
You've got the Midgard serpent, Jormungandr, encircling the world,
Yeah.
and Fenrir, the giant wolf who eats Odin.
Wow. It's terrifying.
The world breaking apart.
Even the gods are barely surviving.
But there's also heroism, sacrifice.
Right.
Thor fights Jormungandr,
Yeah.
a battle that shakes the world. Odin knows his fate, but still faces Fenrir.
They're not just fighting, they're representing these huge forces.
Exactly. Order and chaos, creation and destruction.
But even though they're fighting for their lives,
Yeah.
it feels inevitable.
Like they can't escape what's coming.
Exactly. And that acceptance of fate,
Mm-hmm.
that's a core part of how the Norse saw things.
It's not about winning or losing.
Right.
It's about playing your part.
In this grand story of existence.
Exactly.
Ragnarok sounds like the ultimate test.
It really is.
Not just of strength, but of who you are. To
Yeah.
know that everything is going to be destroyed, even the gods themselves.
Right.
It must take incredible courage to face that.
It really shows how dedicated they are to their roles,
Yeah.
their acceptance of fate and understanding that existence is cyclical, you know?
Right, because Ragnarok isn't really the end.
Exactly.
It's also a beginning.
It's both.
The sources mention that a new world comes out of the ashes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful concept, this idea of renewal.
Totally.
Yeah.
A few gods actually make it through Ragnarok.
Like who?
Well, Balder comes back from the underworld.
Oh, wow.
And these two humans, Lif and Lifthrazir,
Okay.
they come out from Yggdrasil
Mm-hmm.
to, start everything over.
So it's like a reset button.
Yeah.
You get to start fresh, learn from the past.
But this time, the world is built on what came before.
Right. That cycle of destruction and rebirth.
That's key to Norse mythology.
It makes you think about time, right?
Yeah.
How things are always flowing, creation and destruction.
And that hope endures, even when it feels like the end.
It's powerful, and it still means something today.
Absolutely.
I mean, we all have our own challenges,
Yeah.
moments that feel like our own Ragnarok.
Yeah, but knowing that even in those times,
Yeah,
there's a chance to start again, that can give you strength.
for sure. And what's so interesting is,
Yeah.
even with all this focus on fate, the Norse still valued choices.
That's right.
The gods know what's coming, but they still fight.
Yeah.
They make decisions, they love, they grieve.
It's not passive,
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
active participants in their own fate.
They choose how to face things, how to live, how to die even.
And that, I think, is one of the biggest things Norse mythology teaches us.
That we have a choice.
Even when everything seems against you.
Yeah, we can choose how to respond.
Yeah. And in doing that, we shape our own destiny.
So maybe we don't fight giant wolves and serpents,
True.
but we all face our own battles, our own Ragnarok.
So what choices will you make?
Yeah, how will we face those challenges? Will we give in?
Or will we rise to the occasion? Embrace the chance to change and grow?
That's the question, isn't it?
That's what Norse mythology makes us think about.
It's not just the stories, it's the wisdom.
Yeah.
Applying it to our own lives, finding meaning in the struggle.
And always believing in new beginnings.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Hmm?
I feel, I don't know, a sense of awe and inspiration.
Yeah.
These stories from such a harsh world, they
Okay.
speak to something deep inside us,
Totally.
That resilience, that need to understand.
And the belief that we can always start again.
Exactly. Thank you for joining us on this journey.
It's been great.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions.
Keep learning.
And remember, even in the twilight of the gods,
There's always a spark of hope.
a new dawn waiting to happen